I am friends with every one of my exes. And it's something that if people are going to date me, they have to kind of deal with. But like, I create such a deep relationship with them, and I can find, even though we didn't work out, we still created such a bond and a friendship. Now with all the information we know about like mental health and keeping your mental good and stuff, you want to like protect. We're thinking like, okay, when we have kids, we don't want to yell at them. We don't want to hurt them in this way. We want to protect all these things.
I don't want them to go through what I went through.
But then we're like, okay, there's been like, some people have studies on, is like, when you protect them too much, like, who are they going to be?
Yeah.
Like, trauma shapes you, because unless you've went through something, how can you actually better yourself and relate to anyone else? Mm-hmm. Because like, you can relate to people on shyness and certain things and inspire people to be like, wow, I'm the person that's so scared to be on camera, but like Natasha was that way when she was younger, and now she's like on a podcast and she has her own social media, and she's pushed herself out there, and she worked on this and turned it into a strength. But like, no one's going to relate to you if they didn't know. You can't relate to anyone else if you didn't go through it.
It's like the people who like, you would never trust a trainer that is telling you how to lose weight if you were never fat. You're like, you've been skinny your whole life. What do you mean?
Yeah, like you could tell they're just organically skinny. I'm like,
it's the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so like, now we've talked about like, oh, well, when you raise kids, you kind of want them to go through some shit. Yeah. So then that's why I can relate with, there were certain times where our little sisters were going through stuff at school, and I get so mad that my dad's remarried.
We're like, should we fight some kids?
I'm like, why aren't you going to the school and like fixing this? It kills me.
Oh, it's the worst.
Eats away at me.
You're like, I would beat up some kids for that.
Yeah. Tasha's like, you cannot go to her school. I wanted to go to the school and be like, what are you doing? But yeah, there's these girls bullying one of my little sisters, and it made me so upset. But yeah, maybe that our parents have gotten to that place where they're like, it helps them learn.
Yeah, I know, it sucks. It's the shit that I've gone through, but it shaped me to who I am today. Yeah. So I wouldn't delete it.
It's just weird to think to have your own kid and let them go through that.
I think what it is like just knowing as a parent, I think that's where I feel the best about when I become a parent, is I know that if they were going through something hard, I would help them mentally on how to deal with it, instead of what I used to do, and I would just numb it. I'd be like, oh, if I don't think about it, or like, oh, all these people are mean to me, but maybe I just like go hang out over here, or stop being seen, or like hide myself, instead of like figuring out a healthy way to deal with it. And I think that's what's cool about being a parent, is like trying to tell yourself, like, if they're being bullied, you're like, okay, I want to kill these kids, but like, how could I tell them how to be strong in a situation instead? Like, how can I mentally prepare them for things like this, instead of being like, because the trauma is still gonna, say they get bullied, okay, they got bullied, they're still getting the trauma from it, but how they handle it,
that is true,
shaping them.
Yeah, because one of the things we realize, and we've kind of talked about this on a trauma episode, releasing traumas and how important that is a trauma is just an experience that you weren't able to fully experience from a more evolved perspective, right? Yeah, so when you were younger, if like your parent like was like on their phone and was like, can you just shut up? Because they're like, you don't know that they're dealing with like, they just lost their job. They think that the mom is going to get divorced, like the parent is going to get divorced. I don't know. There's so much they could be going through that you aren't able to look at from an evolved perspective to really understand them and be like, oh, it's not me, it's them, you know? Yeah. And so we just need to go back to these moments in our lives and look at them from a more evolved perspective. And we're always gathering a lot of times more traumas and situations from relationships, and then that's why you could look back in like 3 years and you're like, I totally see where they're coming from. Like there was one relationship that I had that was very like, I guess like now I look back and I'm like, how was I in love with this person? Like it was so dark. Now I can see all their traumas so easily. But in the time I was so heartbroken and like,
is it me?
You know, yeah. And I was just like looking at it from such a wrong place. And now like 4 years went by, 5 years went by, and I look back and it's so clear, like they were in a lot of pain, you know? And so it's like going back to that moment and now reprocessing it from a more evolved perspective so you can finally release it.
Because what it is like, if you don't go back to those memories and release it, your brain and your body is always in a survival mode, like worried about that instance happening again. So you just get triggered by it. That's why sometimes you get mad at somebody or a person you're dating randomly and you're like, why am I getting an irrational like like anger towards this person right now. So it helps release those so you're not like a triggered human, because you're always trying to make sure that experience doesn't happen again. But when you relive it, you're like, oh, okay, I can still learn from it. You won't delete it. Like, you still learn from the experience. It's not going to go away. Because I've heard people say before where they're like, once I release it, will I not know how to deal with that situation again? It's like, no, you still learn from the experience.
That's what happened with someone I know very well. I was trying to tell them to release some trauma, and they're like, I don't need to, but I'll do it if you want me to do it for you. I was like, you do need to.
Yeah.
It's like weird to me how you could ever think that
Like,
I don't know how you ever get to a place in life where you don't think you need to work on yourself. I don't understand that.
Well, because you know what it is. It's more uncomfortable to deal with it. They'd rather argue for the rest of their life, which is sad. Like Jordan Peterson was talking about it. He's like, people would rather argue with their significant other for the rest of their life on a subject than deal with
Can you send me that video? I want to send it to them.
It was wild.
That's crazy. Yeah, because they're so comfortable in their miserability of like that.
This is what I already know. I don't want to go into that.
It was so funny because we were talking to one of our friends. Yeah, and they said that they're like, well, if I release my like jealousy and trauma around like being jealous of a girl that I'm dating and stuff like that, being like, oh, are you doing this or did you talk to him? And like if they're not so like possessive anymore, then maybe they're going to be so stupid and they're going to get cheated on because they're not going to know it anymore. It's like, no, you're still going to always know from your experiences. You're just going to understand from a more evolved perspective.
Yeah. You're still smart. You still know what cheating looks like. You know, like, oh, if they're trying to hide their phone, like they're probably being sketched. Like, you still know cheating signs. You don't completely delete them. You're just not going to be so triggered when it's not. Like when they're really, because sometimes they don't realize they're pushing the person to cheat by always worrying about it. Like they almost manifest it more because they're so, it's like if you worry creates your reality. So if you're worrying about something, you're going to keep seeing it.
That's so true. Yeah, so I feel like everyone should get out there and go work on themselves.
That's what I think. That's the motivator. Like, hey, if you don't want to get cheated on, release your cheating fears.
One thing that I am good at, One thing that I am good at that I do work on constantly is working on my mental health. That's good. At least
we work on it weekly.
So motivated on that. Yeah, and I do it every time on this podcast. I work through things, and then I also do it in therapy. And it's like that's one thing I'm addicted to is bettering my mental. Is always being better here. It's just being better on my physical is the next one.
Hell yeah, girl.
Physical workouts.
Have you joined my gym yet?
No.
That's why they always say like when you're paying for an online course or something.
I know
like
you
that,
said
like,
that, but I've done it. I've done it without going.
Yeah,
before. That's
I know you have.
I paid for like 6 months or 5 months. Didn't go once, and I was like, okay, Tara, you're not gonna go. Stop paying for it. And I finally
the cool thing is
canceled
like,
it.
If we were going together, I want to go with someone because I like going with someone. So I was like, at least you have someone to go with.
Yeah, I am gonna go. Yeah, I'm just gonna go when I get back.
Yeah,
I could go sooner, but then I'm gonna miss 2 weeks, and then if I want to get in a routine,
how about every time I want to wake you up to go, I'll just bring up the age thing.
Do you want to not be able to walk?
Do you want to not be able to move as an older lady?
I know.
And travel the world and still do things, and that's how I'll wake you up every morning. It'll be a negative driver.
That is so interesting. To drive yourself, you kind of need a little bit of
negativity,
trauma, insecurities. Yeah, that's why they say it's like there's no good without bad.
Yeah,
it's yin and yang. Yeah. That's why when we've talked about this before in spirituality, we always thought we were going to get to this end goal and be this like evolved, amazing person. But it's like I do look back and I have seen how much I have evolved.
Huge.
But I'm gonna have to evolve the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna always be evolving. And so like, yeah, and that's a good thing because clearly if you don't have anything else to do, you really would be like, why am I living anymore? Yeah. What is the purpose of life? And so like it's good that we always have some negative feelings that we can turn into a motivation and turn into a fuel, like to fuel ourselves. Like a negative emotion is just an alert to yourself of an area you need to heal and or could push you to do something more, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And Abraham Hicks talks about that. She's a spiritual teacher. She talks about contrast is a good thing. And she calls contrast negative situations and negative emotions. Like without contrast, how do you evolve? How do you learn? How do you learn from your experiences and shape your experiences? She always talks about you evolve way more in a negative time than you ever do on a positive.
Yeah. Well, because also, like, how do you even know what happy is if you haven't felt sad? So it's like you have to have down moments as well to enjoy the highs. So it's like it's all needed.
One thing that was really good that I randomly want to touch on is this book that I read when I used to read all the time.
You're
it was
a book reader.
thick
Come on.
book. It was called Seed of the Soul.
It's a good one.
And it was talking about how everyone comes down here with a purpose in life. And some of us on the other side all come into this world, this game of life. And we all want to come here to learn something different. So for an example, some of us on the other side really want to feel like what it's like to have true love. So we're born into a situation that shows us the exact opposite of what love is. So maybe their parents don't pay attention to them, their foster children, whatever, and they're going from home to home and they never find love. And it's like they're going to feel exactly what it's not so that they can feel love so much deeper than anyone else.
That makes sense for my journey.
Yeah, it's like
That's wild.
So everyone has. So we could
Not
come
like
down.
I was a foster child. Sorry.
Yeah, but like for whatever yours
Yeah.
is, and so some of us have a plan or a purpose to come down to fulfill, and a lot of times we're put into potentially the opposite of what it is. So like,
Is that why you think you were more motivated by wealth?
probably
Like, because there was a time where you said, like, yeah, you were like working at Starbucks. You were just like grinding.
I wasn't working at
Not working at Starbucks.
Not that
Working
that's
in
bad, but
Starbucks,
but I was working in Starbucks.
Yeah.
I used to work on my laptop there. Well, I wasn't making money. I probably should have worked behind the register to make money. I was making no money.
I was making less than the people working
Yeah,
at
I was making
Starbucks.
less than the people working at Starbucks trying to build my own company. Barely could afford my Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to feel the feelings of not having it to like push you even more. 'Cause
Yeah,
even me,
and
like,
keep failing.
Yeah.
You feeling failure. I could it felt so good when I got success. Like,
Yeah.
whereas some people, like, they're raised with their parents. I've seen it. I've seen some people that are raised with like successful parents, and I'm always like, yeah, but like it's a little different because your father or mother was like your mentor.
showed you the way,
They
yeah.
basically were like, so this is what you do. This is how you hire. This is how you get an accounting team. This is how you
Here's
set
all
up
my
QuickBooks.
people.
Here's my accounting team. Here's the legal that I would go. Here's good legal advice. I'm like, I had none of that. I had to
Like, I
learn
had
it
to
all
figure
from
that shit out.
scratch. But I could tell that like my feeling of achieving has been way more fulfilling for me
Yeah,
than some
than
of them.
anyone.
They're kind of just like, it's normal. Like,
Yeah.
it's expected. Like,
Yeah,
they already
knew it was
going
gonna
to
happen. Yeah.
Which is like cool, but like I gotta really feel it.
Yeah. That's why I was like, even me, because like my driver, and that's why I'm obviously in the dating world, is like I've always been like obsessed with relationships and love since I was little. And of course, I develop a avoidant attachment where I literally push away love. Like, so I was like, it's wild. That makes sense. Until I
Yeah.
released those traumas to where I could actually love. I never, like, that's why I'm so grateful when I am in love. I'm like, this is nice. Is this what everybody was fucking talking about? I was like, I couldn't even feel love before. I was so jealous of people. I was like, wait, you enjoy hanging out with them more than 2 weeks? Like, a relationship longer than that? Like, I wouldn't like people after 2 weeks. I was like, and it sucks.
Yeah, because you were an avoidant.
I was such an avoidant. And I hated it. An avoidant sucks 'cause
She
it's
used to
very
literally
isolating.
she used to get in breakups and like was like a literally ice cold ice princess.
People would think it
I
was
used
ice
to-
cold, but it's like, to me,
It was so easy for
Yeah,
you
it was
though. I was
easy
like,
for
you
me to
never
break up
went
with
through the
people.
shit I went through. I had so much. I was
Heartbreak
like,
and-
so much, tear my soul out and stomp on it. Like I just used to. I loved so deeply, way more easily than you.
Yeah.
And so like when I would go through stuff, I was like, oh, my whole life is involved. Every part of my being and
Like,
soul
you got scared to get in
ripped
love again.
apart, and like it was like a lot for me.
Yeah.
And I like
You're
yeah.
like- I remember like people always get jealous of avoidance because they're like, oh, that must be nice to not give a fuck.
I
Like,
wanted to be like you for a long time.
But what sucks though is you're not enjoying life because you're not actually connecting with people in a deeper way. So like it feels very isolating and lonely because you're just like, cool, like I don't want to not give a fuck about people. That doesn't feel good.
Yes, it does, Natasha. Don't lie to us.
That looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, she like never really got that hurt. She never let herself get that close to anyone, even friendships, so that she never like was hurt if they left. But then the counter is that you never really made that deep of relationships.
Yeah.
Because you always had the wall up. And then she would say to me, well, I love that so many people are so close with you and want to do things for you. And you'd always tell me that. And I'm like, oh, really? And you're like, but it's because I was putting my heart out there, willing to get
vulnerable.
hurt,
Yeah.
giving myself fully, which makes people give themselves fully.
Yeah.
And then you create a
Because
true
I
connection.
got fucked over a lot in friendships too, because like I would get to know them so well because they would be vulnerable maybe with me, but I wasn't vulnerable back. So like it was so easy. Like I was like, why do all my girlfriends fuck me over? Like I went through that since I was like a kid in kindergarten. And then I realized, because they would always be like, yeah, girls are mean or blah, blah, blah. But I was having it like a lot. And then when I realized it was my avoidantness of like, I didn't share with them like vulnerability, so it was really easy for them to think like I must not like them really, or like it's a one-sided friendship. Like to them, they didn't get to know me, so it's very easy for them to be like, all right, bye Tosh, or not care about me.
Yeah, it's because like if because like for me, when someone shares things with me, like I have this problem. I don't know if it's a problem. And maybe it is, but I like find things that are good about people and then I hold on to it so tightly. And I'm friends with every single one of my exes, and I'm friends with a lot of my friends that I've had for a long time.
She's a friend hoarder.
I'm a friend hoarder and I'm an ex hoarder. And it's because like once I create that bond with you and I find beautiful parts of your soul,
Like your mind.
I like cherish you. And I literally get sad thinking about us not being able to talk anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and so I'll literally go to dinner with like some of my exes that I dated when I was like 19. Yeah. We'll go catch up and have a great time. And like we're not physically romantic anymore. They care about my life, their life, and we have fun laughs and funny times, and like they'll always be there for me in my life. I'll always be there for them. Like you have a bond that not many people get to have when you have that relationship. And so I've loved that part. And like a lot of them reach out to me and be like, how are you doing? They check in on me, and I feel like they genuinely love me as a person. Like we're not in love, but they'll always love
have
me.
a love spot for you.
We have a love with each other, and we genuinely want the best for each other. And it's so great when you get to have that.
That's what I think is like, it's funny because society, like being a girl, like if I was dating a guy who had that, like if he was friends with all of his exes and like they would confide in each other, share memories, like I'd be like, wait, you're getting emotional support from that bitch? No, I'm your bitch.
This is really weird to many people, but I am friends with every one of my exes. And I still have a good relationship with them. And it's something that if people are going to date me, they have to kind of deal with. And I make it, you could tell they're friends. They'll come hang out in my friend group, and there's nothing weird going on. But like I create such a deep relationship with them, and I can find beautiful parts of them that are nice to like, even though we didn't work out, we still created such a bond and a friendship beyond it. And so we're still in each other's lives.
Yeah,
and
you
so,
don't want to throw it away. Yeah, like it's funny because society puts like such like a weirdness, like, oh, you should cut your exes out of your life completely, and because it does bring up insecurities. Because if I'm thinking like someone I'm dating seriously, and what women feel like we bring value to a relationship is like we are the emotional side where guys can be vulnerable with us and share their like deeper things, and because they can't do that with their guy friends. So if he's doing that with a girlfriend, like an ex that he used to like date or whatever, I wouldn't like someone taking my job.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's not like I'm like hanging out with them all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like, for an example, like a holiday comes or my birthday or like something, or like I'll invite them to my birthdays. They get to come.
Yeah.
And I'll randomly.
Do you tell your current boyfriends that they were your ex?
Yeah, if I'm like actually serious with them. If I'm not serious with them and we're just like talking, I don't say anything.
Because I think that's important. A lot of people don't share that because they don't want to hurt the person they're dating, but they don't realize like it's actually pretty disrespectful. I think in a way.
Yeah. I do. I'll be like, I dated them, but I was 19. Like, let's chill. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. And that's good.
Yeah. Most of them, like, because I had a really long relationship prior. So that kind of took up a lot of my life. So most of my exes are from when I was younger anyways, and I'm still friends with. So I'm like, I was like 21, 23.
Yeah. Chill.
One was 16. One was 13 that I'm still friends with. I really stay friends.
Yeah, you really keep them.
And it's great because when I see them, we have like a bond, and they'll say to me things like,
from your past.
Yeah, they'll say things from my past. We laugh and we see how much each other evolved and like how we used to
remember when you used
be.
to be like-
And I learned so much, like things that I used to experience in that relationship that I now have evolved from and they have evolved from. And we realize how stupid we were. And like, there's no romanticness anymore. It's just like it's just, I don't know. I think it's beautiful, but I could see how it's very controversial.
But I think it's cool because even with me and you, like our relationship, I've known you since you were born. So like there's things that like that's what makes our relationship beautiful is like I was like, remember when we used to be like this or this? So it is nice to have people in your vicinity or in your friendships that you're like could remind you of how you used to be. So then you're grateful for where you are now.
Because when you date someone, you get a bond that you don't really get from other relationships, right?
Yeah.
You go so deep with that. They get to see all like your flaws and quirks and like they get to know you
jealous,
so
like,
like,
everything.
yeah, they see your pain. They see like you show a part of you to the world, but then you have like this inner world that they get to see. And so the bond that you create with them, it's just, I don't know, I think it's sad that you have to completely cut that out of your life and be like, we had such a transformational experience together and you evolved me and taught me so many lessons, and now I get to go on to a new life and relationship and I have to like completely cut you out and act like you're a complete stranger.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's about how you do it, because like I've talked about this before, but it's like if it's not like you're gonna hide your current relationship from this person. It's like they can be around, they know you're in a relationship, you know they're maybe in a relationship, you hang out with them, they hang out with you, they've seen your new boyfriend.
I think it's more just like, so say like even with me, I'm like I think there's just a boundary where it's like, hey, you like, because guys that I've dated are really close with girls, and I like guys that are close with girls because then I connect with them on a more emotional level, so I enjoy that. I just set boundaries on like what they can do together, so like I wouldn't want them traveling together or like alone together, like it's like in a house together, because I feel like that's weird. But if they were like going out to dinner or they're going out to other places or hanging out, like inviting each other to like events and stuff, that's cool. So I think it's just whatever you're comfortable with, because at the end of the day, I think like a really evolved human would be like, you're so like, you know your value so much and you love yourself so much that why would you be in fear of someone that was in their past? It's like, shouldn't you be so like, if you're in a good relationship, you should have that trust and everything builds that to where like, I feel like as an evolved human, you're like, that doesn't affect me. That should like, that would be the highest version of me.
Exactly. And there's something so confident about someone that just like guy that's just like, I know that I'm like the best for you and it doesn't threaten me. Like
threatening
it's so
me
attractive.
It's so hot.
It's so attractive.
It's so hot, because then you really aren't interested in that person, because you're like, I really couldn't go back. You are the shit. You're convincing me.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Because they always say that too with like to girls. They're like, don't be jealous of other girls. You're just making them look more attractive.
Exactly.
Than you.
So true. So true.
You're making her hot. And that's why they say, like, if guys are like, because guys test girls sometimes and they'll be like, hey, oh, your friend's so, like, that actress is so beautiful. Or like, oh my God, she's my crush. Or she's blah, blah,
I don't
blah.
like that.
I know.
Thank God no guys done that to me.
So the reason they do that is it's like a testing thing, because they want to see how secure or like how much you like them. Like if you get annoyed by that, and you go, oh, well, she kind of has like weird hair, or she kind of is this, or like you put her down, they know, wow, she really likes me, but she's intimidated by that girl, so that girl's higher than her. So it ruins your value, but then it's also like a weird thing for them of like, oh, she does like me. Like she's trying to put down other girls. She's obsessed with me. It's like a validation weird thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So the best thing you could do is like, oh, fuck yeah, she's so hot. If I was gay, I'd fuck her. Like just don't even care. Like cheer her on more.
Wow.
Because that's an evolved human. It's like, no one should affect you. We shouldn't be compared with other people. No, if that's why I always notice, like, am I triggered if a guy says some like a compliment about a girl? Am I triggered by, oh, that's some inner work I need to fucking do?
Yeah, I just listened to this clip on social media, and it was this girl that was like, put the hottest girl in the room next to my boyfriend, have her hit on him. I want to know, because if he goes and talks to her, then that's not my man.
It's not my man.
Yeah, like if he is swindled, then he's not for me. Like I don't want to close my guy off from living life and be like, don't do that, don't do this, don't do this. It's like, I want to know if you're the right one for me. Like, go ahead, let's see, show me your actions. That's what and that's another thing that I was trying to talk to about someone else with someone else I was dating was, you know, like when you put in trust with someone, you want to, the right people, I'm not saying all, the right people. Like I had a relationship for my longest term relationship that he had so much trust for me that I wanted to prove him right. Because I'm someone that was worth trusting.
Yeah.
Like
you want to live up to that standard.
I want to live up
that
to
they
that
set
standard.
for you. Yeah.
So like I was so like excited to constantly reach the level of what they expected of me. And I became the best I ever was in a relationship because of that standard they put for me. Like, I trust you, I'm loyal to you. They also had very high like loyalty expectations for themselves and certain things. And so I was excited to prove them right. That being said, when you give trust to someone and they're not the right person, what's the worst case? You find out they're not the right person to trust. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So like some people are scared to put their trust into a relationship, but put your trust into a relationship. Allow someone to prove to you if that's the someone you can trust. And then you get to find out either way. I'm like, that's a good thing.
That's why a lot of people are so worried about looking stupid. Like they're like, if you fuck me over, I'll feel stupid about myself, instead of just being like, no, I'm glad you fucked me over. Now I know. Like instead of like, what's the worst? Okay, you don't date them anymore. Like our ego is so shot that we're like we're so worried about looking dumb. It's like, who cares? It was a bad person. It shouldn't matter.
Another thing that made me so excited to talk about, I just thought of, is one of the things that this guy that I am currently dating said to me. He's like, one thing I love about you is like when we get in an argument, I know that you're not going to just like run and do something really stupid. He's like, I used to date girls that were like, if we got in an argument and they'd get insecure and then they'd like go out and party and drink and like flirt with other guys to like make me mad. He's like, but I know that you're not going to do that. And I'm like, yeah, because it's just going to make me feel worse. Yeah. Like anyone that's evolved enough knows that by going and swooping to a lower level, because that's swooping to a lower level to be like, go out and hook up with a guy or do something as a revenge. It's only going to make me feel worse. Yeah. But by being like, okay, you did something, we're in an argument, you did something that made me upset. I'm going to go and prove to you why I am the best girl. And also for myself, because I'm the one that has to put my head on the pillow at night. And I want to know that I did my best. So that way, when we don't work out, I can look back and not regret. Because the worst thing is like, you go, you do something low, you hook up with another guy to get revenge, and now they never can forgive you. Yeah. Guess what? You're going to always feel like you lost them for the rest of your life. Like you fucked up, right?
Yeah. At least you can always say like, I tried my best, and that's better than living in regret of like, oh no, I messed it up too. Like,
yeah. You don't want to also add to it to be years. I get to walk away from every relationship feeling like, well, you lost me, you know?
I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah, like that's the best feeling. That's how you get over them.
Yeah.
So there was one relationship where I like, and that was my lesson when I was younger. I was like 18, and a guy that I was dating, he like said he was going to have a boys' night, and I was like really starting to really like him, and I got so hurt and offended by it. And he did it in a really like he scoffed at it. He's like, we were supposed to hang out, he told me to be ready by 9. I got all ready, and then I like did my makeup. I'm sitting there and it's like 9:15, 9:30, 10, and then he finally calls me. I'm like, I thought, you told me to be ready at 9. He's like, oh, we're gonna have a boys' night. And I'm like, so hurt. I'm like, okay. And I can hear the guys laughing in the background, and I'm like, okay, goodbye. And I got so insecure by how it went down that I drove to one of my friends' houses, and I got so drunk. We went out. I think I was like 17, and partied. I got so fucked up. I really drank a lot. And I kissed one of our guy friends. Yeah. Just because I wanted anyone to make me feel better. This person I would never really ever be with. Fast forward, then he finds out, and he forever was so upset. He could never forgive me. And the next day he told me, he's like, I'm really sorry I did that. My friends were just pressuring me to not always be with you. And then I felt so guilty that I did this. I was so immature. Yeah. And that was my biggest learning lesson was huge. Like, I'm never going to do that again. It just makes you feel worse.
Because it's just coming from pain instead of being like, because even it's hard too. Like, I think the hardest thing in a relationship is being vulnerable and being like, hey, when you said that to me the other night, like that really hurt my feelings. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to do that.
I know.
It's like, I don't want to be the weak one. I need to have the power in the relationship. I need to look like that didn't faze me. But you don't realize you're not bonding if you don't just bring up. If anything, you're showing your value. Like, hey, this upset me. In future, can you do this, this, and this? Because if you do this, then I can continue this. Yeah. Like, that's hotter. You're showing your value as a woman instead of being like, I don't care. I'm such a cool girl. I don't care.
I want to go into one more topic and then we'll end.
I forgot I had a call soon, but I said 10 minutes.
Okay. One more topic to end this podcast. One of the last things I want to touch on is the show Tell Me Lies, Tasha. And how freaking toxic it is. I had this show that every girl was telling me to watch. Like, have you seen Tell Me Lies? Have you seen me Tell Me Lies? And I had so many people telling me to watch it. So I go watch it. I'm watching it. I'm seeing all these like really messed up ways they're like manipulating each other, gaslighting each other, narcissism, like all these like really screwed up weird ways that they're doing to each other to like earn love or get gratification or take advantage of someone for their own like insecurities. Such a dark show, kind of. But because me and you are so like evolved and like putting out goodness in the world, I can watch that. Don't get me wrong, I watched the full first season and I'm wanting to watch the second season, but I'm like, I have this like energetic wall up of like, this is like very negative. It's very dark, but I don't think it's like interesting to me that this is such a huge, most popular show and like people like to watch and I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Like, okay, people like watching this like dark, manipulative, taking advantage of each other, screwed up, messed up stuff. Like people love that stuff.
Because they connect with it in a way of like, there's times that those things probably happen to them. So they're like, oh, that brings me back to that time and I'm going to make sure I don't get fucked over again. Or like,
but it's like you're taking on that energy and now you're living
manifesting
and then
it.
it's like, and I'm going to sleep after watching it. And it's like, I've never watched a show that I want to get through so quickly. I'm like, I just want to get it out of my life. It's addicting to watch. Yeah. I want to watch it, get it out. I don't want it in my vicinity ever again. But I know I should just stop watching it. But it's like, it is good. But God, I don't want to be in this energetic field. It's such a negative field to be in.
That's why I stopped watching it, because I'm such a believer on like it affects my body and I don't want to take on those like beliefs, because I always think like if you're hanging out with someone who's like always worried about being cheated on or something like that, then you're like, am I gonna be cheated on? Like, why are you making it like you're always worried about your guy, like, and you're just whoever you hang out with, they always become. So I'm like, if you're watching a show, you're in a hypnotic state when you're watching TV, so your body doesn't know the difference, so you're taking it on. I'm like, you're making that experience your experience, a thing that you lived. You think you lived it because you're watching it. So it's like, I just don't even want that in my life. I'd rather live in bliss. That's why I watch comedy only, baby.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for coming on this podcast today. We just riffed. I want to tell everyone where they can find you. Tosh 9 p.m.
Yeah, you can find me on socials, Tosh 9 p.m.
And we come back every Wednesday now to film, or we come back every Wednesday now to release new episodes. Thank you so much for watching. I read all your comments. We always reply to all of them. Tell us what parts resonated with you the most, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I love you.